What's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. So obviously, based on the screen here, you can see doing things a little bit differently for this particular, I guess, video. So here we go. So I believe I actually got a comment in the community tab on YouTube, and it was very interesting because in reality, not too many people are talking about this specific topic, and I try to do things that not too many people are talking about, but things that are still very much relevant. And I put up a post, not too many people answered. Obviously, I'm still a very small channel, but Evo Rebirth, so this video is, in response to you, but where has Baron Mordo been hiding? Is he in Latveria and training Victor Von Doom in the art of magic? Well, to answer your second question, I don't necessarily think he's in Latveria per se training Dr. Doom in magic, but I do know for a fact though, well, I would say do know for a fact, honestly all of this is just speculatory, so I gotta get out the habit of saying that, but ultimately I do know he's recruiting other people. Like, that's just something that's kind of a given. But we're gonna kind of go through. This is an article that actually someone else sent me, and since it was related to that question that he posted, Evo, I'm going to do this video in this form of fashion. But before I dive into any of that, the usual, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below, let me know what you think, and let me know your opinions about this. And we're going to go through these articles, and well, this one particular article, and you let me know if you agree with this, if you don't, and yeah, without further ado, let's kind of dive into it. So basically, let's get into the recap. Now obviously this part of the article is saying why Mordo left Karmatage, which is basically, we already know this in the end of the first Doctor Strange movie. He found out that the Ancient One was actually drawing power from the Dark Dimension, which is why the Ancient One was so powerful, which is why the Ancient One was so old, because basically she was a hypocrite in a lot of ways. She spent, a lot of years, trying to tell them like, hey, no, this power is bad, don't draw from the Dark Dimension, and then here she is drawing from the Dark Dimension, which, like I said, makes her a hypocrite, and then it kind of spits in the face of all the teachings that she's tried to kind of do. And since she's the one who's drawing power and then proving how powerful someone can be once they're drawing from the Dark Dimension. So once we already kind of see that kind of transpire, and then by the end of the first movie, he helps Doctor Strange kind of defeat Dormammu after he kind of enters into the portion of the Dark Dimension that's leaking into our reality. Basically, he says there is no more of him, teaching or being a mentor or anything like that. And at this point, he's gonna, just move forward as an individual. He did not mention what his intentions were in terms of, going forward in the mystic realm. Now, we already know that he, at the end of the movie, I think it was the first post-credit scene or second, but it's one of those post-credit scenes where basically he's going around collecting the energy and magic of other people who have trained with the Ancient One, who have access to magic in any way, shape, or form, because he feels like too many people have access to it. So this first portion of the article is basically just explaining that for the most part. I'm pretty sure you can read some of it, and I think this bottom part here where it says Mordo was still willing to fight with Strange to prevent Caecilius from bringing down Dormammu to Earth, pretty much explained that already. So let's kind of get into the next part of this article. Now it says what's next for Mordo. In this article, it says within the main portion of Doctor Strange, the last time we saw Karl Mordo was when he was walking away from Strange and Wong, after together they have managed to save the world from Caecilius and Dormammu. Those who stayed for the post-credit sequence, however, got an extra moment with the sorcerer, and it's one that helps spell out what we can expect from him in the not too distant future. Basically what I said a couple seconds ago. After spending months away from the following events in Hong Kong, Mordo finds himself in a workshop of Jonathan Pangborn, basically another former student who was, like I said, at the training under the tutelage of the Ancient One, and basically he's siphoning his magic, and that's basically what caused Jonathan Pangborn, who was previously crippled. At this point, he was no longer crippled because he was using magic and then using it to kind of help him walk again, but Mordo then siphoned that energy and stole it from him, ultimately making him crippled again. So what can we gather from that moment already? Yes, he's going around, he's collecting magic, he's going around meeting other masters of magic in the world, like it says right here, and I'm pretty sure, much like a lot of us can assume, he's gonna need some help to kind of combat Doctor Strange, as well as just being able to bring down the magical community, because he feels like there's too many people using magic and that not everyone deserves it, because his whole philosophy with the Ancient One has been twisted because he feels betrayed. He feels like even though people are supposedly teaching it, teaching people how to use it for good or whatever like that, ultimately they can become hypocrites like the Ancient One. So he feels like he needs to reduce the amount of people who have magic to a number that he deems fit, which ultimately I feel like he just feels like he's the only one worthy to wield magic. And that's kind of, I guess, not necessarily evil, but ultimately still relatively I guess justified to some degree. But let's kind of continue going down the article, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit things some more. So since when will we see Mordo again? And this first paragraph says, it's made pretty damn clear that Doctor Strange and Marvel Studios has big plans for the future of the mystical side in their big screen comic book universe. So far, the biggest evidence of this is the fact that both Doctor Strange and Wong have been confirmed. Obviously, we saw them in Avengers Infinity War, which means this article is a little older, and it remains up in the air how exactly and when exactly we will expect to see him reprise his role as Mordo, as there is 3 distinct directions in which the franchise can go. So we already know this article is a little older based on the wording, but we already know that there's going to be a Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness. Now, when it comes to that particular movie or the approach that they're going for it, which from my understanding is going to include Scarlet Witch, I do not think he's going to be like a main villain in that movie. Me personally, I'm not saying it's not possible, but for me personally, I do not think so. What I think is going to happen is going to focus on the villain. They're going to focus on a problem, him and Scarlet Witch, whatever. They're going to do what they have to do in the movie, and then I feel like at some point, either in one of the the pre-credit scenes, post-credit scenes, whatever, he's going to appear. But you can see that he's been collecting power, and some people speculate it could be Dormammu. Some people speculate it could be Mephisto. Me personally, I don't really have an idea about who he's going to be kind of, I guess, asking for help, because there's so many choices, so many options. But I do personally feel like they could be introducing Mephisto, simply because Mephisto is linked to several characters, but everyone primarily knows him as like, the link between Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider has mystical ties, and as well as he's been on the Avengers, or he has references to the Avengers when it comes to certain events. So basically Mephisto is a nice little launching point to introduce other characters like Ghost Rider if they were to do that, as well as maybe even has some sort of relation to Blade, things like that. So some people speculate that. I feel like Mephisto is more likely, but at this point we have little to no information about that. So I think what's going to happen in terms of Mordo is he's going to probably be the big bad for a 3rd Doctor Strange movie or some sort of crossover event, just simply because the totality of magic in terms of Marvel Comics, even in DC Comics as well, is that when certain aspects of magic are unchecked or completely out of control, then at this point it requires multiple people to kind of intervene and prevent certain events from happening. So Mordo obtaining massive amounts of magic, which he's more than capable of. Even in the comic books, he can definitely do a lot of damage if you do not pay attention to his intentions and what he plans to do. He can definitely cause problems for not only Doctor Strange but the Avengers if he collects enough power and if he uses enough magic. Now, what I think is gonna at least take place or transpire when it comes to Mordo is that I know a lot of people are more familiar with him trying to, basically drawing power from Dormammu, and I don't know why am I struggling with that name, Dormammu, and then eventually he's gonna, I guess some people feel like he's gonna make a deal, and his comic book character has done that on, I think, more than one occasion. They've done it in the animated Marvel Doctor Strange movie that's on Netflix. They've done it on a few occasions. So a lot of people feel like he's gonna take that route, and I'm not saying that's impossible, but the reason I feel like in his case in the movie it would not happen is simply because it would go against everything that he kind of left. Like the reason why he left, it would go against that reason, and he was upset about the Ancient One drawing power from the Dark Dimension. So I feel like his first instinct would not be, let me run to the Dark Dimension and draw power from it the same way that Carcelius did and the Ancient One did. Let me do something different, at least at first, and then eventually I feel like he'll kind of trickle down to the powers of the Dark Dimension, as well as he'll find ulterior ways of drawing power. And like I said, he's siphoning power from plenty of people, and if he has the time and he keeps pulling power from people, siphoning it into himself, he will be more powerful than Doctor Strange, Wong, a bunch of other people that they've already trained, other masters of magic that we saw in Avengers Endgame in the end credits when they teleported a bunch of magicians or wizards or whatever you want to call them, Leviosa, whatever. But I think basically what he's been doing is just where we left him off when we saw him at the end of Doctor Strange. He's collecting power, he's siphoning energy from other wizards, he's siphoning abilities from other mystical beings or in other dimensions. He's doing whatever he can to draw power, but also he's going to need some help, like we said early in the video. So basically he's probably going to link up with some other magicians. I personally would say we might see like an enchantress kind of introduction, because she was very much tied to magic, and she has some sort of ties to actually Baron Mordo. So it would not be completely out of the realm of possibility, but there is not enough information for us to really make a prediction that would be like absolutely absolutely sound. But I guess to kind of wrap up everything, or kind of put everything into like a nice little focused little I guess 3 or 4 lists, 3 or 4 options on the list, it would be like Mephisto, Dormammu, the possibility that he could be working with the Enchantress, as well as there's a possibility that he could be working with possibly Chthon, perhaps. I don't know, like there's plenty of options out there in terms of magic, and I think that's why they're probably going to take that route with Baron Mordo when it comes to who could he team up with, who is he going to borrow power from. You know, he can literally borrow power from quite literally anybody. So there's just too many options to name in terms of the multiverse, which is why I think the second movie is called the Multiverse of Madness, where because there's just so much out there, so many beings from alternate dimensions, so much power that any specific being can draw, you know, any amount of power from, as long as they're willing to pay that price. I mean, it's really up in the air, but nonetheless, we do know he's amassing power from not only wizards, and he's still out there in the world, but we just don't know if he was affected by the snap. Maybe he disappeared, and maybe the snap, which lasted about 5 years according to Endgame, it definitely did affect his ability to collect the amount of magic that he needs, because half the population was missing, the world fell apart. So in some way, shape, or form, he definitely was affected by the snap. But we'll talk about that in the comments. Let me know what you think. How you feeling about, you know, Baron Mordo and what he's been up to for the last, you know, so years. Let me know what you feel. Let me know what you think. Let me know your theories. Anything is honestly on the table. So if you leave a comment down below with your theories, I would definitely, you know, read them, check them out, answer it, and then who knows, maybe I'll do another video about it, just like this one was in response to somebody else who left a comment. So please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I hope to see you later on. Peace out.